Hello and welcome back to week 2, day, think of a number and double it. I've forgotten the day. I think it's Wednesday. But if somebody was to argue with me and say, no, it's really Tuesday, then I'm just going to accept that. I don't know what day it is. I don't know who I am. And I don't know who you are or what I'm doing. It's raining in Cullen, but not serious rain. So I've done my official once a day exercise with the dogs, and I've got the windswept look. Can't do anything with it. It's just this is now the natural look which I portray to the world. But enough nonsense, enough hilarity, enough non-Presbyterian stuff. Let's go back to being a Presbyterian and dry humour. Okay, back to being a Presbyterian. So we're looking at Mark, as you know, if you've been following this, and we have completed chapter 1. We started chapter 2 yesterday. And if you don't know anything else about Mark, all you need to know is this. The writer of this book, Mark, is portraying Jesus as a healer. Fundamental, straight off, Jesus is a healer with a new message about God. Now, I said way back on day 2 or 3 that the people of Jesus' time simply accepted there was a God. There was none of this sort of, could there be, might there be, where's the proof? They just accepted it. Just the same as we accept that the best malt whisky is Dalwhinnie. You know, it's just the way it is. So people just accepted there was a God, and if you behaved and adhered to the rules and the regulations and followed that ethical religious code, then everything would go well. But if somehow or other you tripped up and you developed an illness, whether it was serious or not, then that meant, in the people's eyes, that meant you had sinned. You had done something bad against your fellow man and woman, or against God, or both. You know, so basically it was your fault. You deserve that punishment. And Jesus' ministry up to this point is more or less him turning that right on its head and saying, no, it's not. Jesus' ministry is all about accepting the person as they are. And in that affirmation and in that acceptance and in that crossing that boundary between what was taboo and you cannot touch this person and what was holy, Jesus bridged the gap. He brought the holy to the unlovable, to the ostracised, to those that were on the outskirts of society. Now, this is all radical and this is all new for the people living in those early biblical times. They'd never seen somebody like this before. So he was beginning to become popular. Now, when you become popular, and it doesn't matter which century you live in, you are bound to attract your enemies, those who fundamentally disagree, those who don't like you, those who are jealous of you, those who don't like the way you do things because it's not been the way that's been. So as soon as you create a new platform, a new dimension, you are going to attract people who are out to criticise, to condemn, to gossip. Now there's the thing. And Jesus was exactly the same. Now the group of people who were really out to get him were the teachers of the law, the Pharisees, the religious polis of the time. They're out to make sure that he trips up, and as soon as he trips up, they're going to get him. So we're going to begin. That's the background. That's a summary. I haven't done a summary for a wee while, but there you go. There's a summary. So I'm still in chapter 2, although I don't think I'll take as long in chapter 2 as I did with chapter 1. You'll be delighted to hear. So in chapter 2, I'm going to start from verse 13. And my heading is the calling of Levi. Levi, nothing to do with jeans. Once again, Jesus went out beside the lake. A large crowd came to him, and he began to teach them. As he walked along, he saw Levi, son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," Jesus told him, and Levi got up and followed him. While Jesus was having dinner at Levi's house, many tax collectors and sinners were eating with him and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. When the teachers of the law, who were Pharisees, saw him eating with the sinners and the tax collectors, they asked his disciples, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" On hearing this, Jesus said to them, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." So already you're beginning to see the Pharisees don't like the way Jesus is doing things. And in those days, people were, my glasses were falling off again, people were categorized into the acceptable and the unacceptable. And the Pharisees made sure that these two groups didn't meet. And tax collectors and sinners were at least two groups that were not supposed to mix with the good and the moral and the upright and the blessed. And here is Jesus right in the middle of these people, accepting them as they are, eating with them as if he was one of them, and not really caring. You know, I think that's a wonderful attitude to take. I mean, we need to care about what other people think. But here is my take. Here is my 21st century take in this. We go through life trying to be ourselves. And that's wonderful. But so many people cannot be themselves because they feel that other people make a judgment on them, that they have to fit in to the other people's judgment. So it could be silly things like, well, it's not a silly thing because it can be a serious thing, but if somebody decided to branch out and wear clothes that were maybe either colourful or different, and their peers or their neighbours or even members of the family said, What is that you're wearing? Go back home and get that changed. Now, why should they? I mean, I'm not talking about a child here, I'm talking about an adult, but why should they? Why should they adhere to someone else's opinion? It's their opinion. The problem is theirs, not the person wearing the colourful clothes. And it's the same as jobs or who we meet, sexuality, how we think, how we act, how we talk. People will have an opinion. People will make a judgment. And what is liberating is for those who are deemed different, if they can simply say, do you know what? This is me. And if you've got a problem with it, it's not my problem. It's your problem. And this is what was beginning to happen during Jesus' ministry. The Pharisees had a major problem with how he was conducting himself. And up to this point in Mark's Gospel, the synagogue was the place where Jesus was really teaching. But the synagogue doors were beginning to close to him. So Jesus found himself with the skies as his canopy, on a boat or up a hillside for his pulpit. And he was gathering the crowds because If you've ever, unless you're a minister or a priest, or indeed even if you're not, maybe you've conducted something outside, it's much, much more liberating. You're not restricted. I'm never restricted when I'm taking a service outside. I don't do many, but I have done so. And there's a wonderful freedom. You know, you don't need to use notes. Well, I don't use notes, as you can tell. You're not restricted to notes. You're not restricted to a script. You just go with the flow. And I think Jesus is in his element during this time, outside with people, mixing with, if you like, the ostracized, the outcasts, the unlovable. And Jesus said, you know what? God loves you. And that's important. That's important. So tomorrow is another day. I don't know what day it is, but I am aware that this weekend is the Easter weekend. So what I might do, I'm giving myself permission to do this. So I tell you that I'm going to take you through Mark's Gospel, and then I have this eureka moment and say, do you know what? I'm only at chapter 2. Surely to goodness this lockdown is not going to last for months and years. If it did, we could easily get to the end of Mark's Gospel. But I'm thinking. I don't know if I'm going to do it yet. I'll need to sleep on this. But I'm thinking that I may break away from Mark's Gospel and have a wee look at Holy Week, because we're halfway through Holy Week, and I haven't really touched on it because I'm concentrating on Mark's Gospel. So that might give you a bit of a flavour before we reach Easter Sunday. And Easter Sunday is the most important Christian event in the church. If you believe it, Jesus was crucified on the Friday, this coming Friday, and he was interred into in a tomb. But on the Sunday, he was seen by other people who were part of his ministry. Now, like as I said earlier, that is a faith statement, and I can't give you proof. I can't say, well, here's a magic piece of paper here that tells you all about it. You know, there is no proof. We go by the accounts in the Bible. We go by the accounts of other historians who wrote after this period. Or we go with our gut feelings. So I'm going to maybe explore that in a wee bit more detail, because it is pretty cryptic to the whole ethos of the Christian faith, having a belief that somehow or other a man who was tortured and hung on a cross, which was the most brutal form of execution I think ever invented, he died quite quickly, actually. Sometimes you would go on for, people would hang on a cross for days on end. But he died after a relatively short period. He was interred, and yet a few days after that, he was seen talking and being recognised, and yeah, fascinating. Fascinating. So I'm back tomorrow. I hope you continue to keep safe, and hopefully at some point we will be able to feel liberated ourselves and go out and about and have more than one walk, whether in the rain or in the sunshine. Take care. See you tomorrow.